Okay, let's try this again. Had to screw up with the first one. The latest new craze with pretty much everything is a new thing called vaping. Basically, what it is it is a wick of some sort that is wetted with some type of e-juice that is made of polyethylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, nicotine, and flavoring. Uh, there's all kind of people out there saying no, don't do this. It has carcinogens in it. The one question I have for that is how the hell can carcinogens be in it if it's nothing but water vapor? Okay, we all know nicotine is a neurotoxin. It's not good for you, of course not. But with the whole vaping phase, I personally started it. I wanted to quit cigarettes. They tasted nasty. They were expensive. Buying a pack or two every day or so. So I got some money. I was curious. I invested in. This is an actual one, but I invested in one of the pen type. I don't have one anymore. They all broke. But one of the pen type vaporizers, the one that has a tank up top, and then you have your battery. Worked for a while, didn't give me enough vapor, so I eventually want to step my game with it. There's mods and all kind of stuff, but I mean basically with a vaporizer this is a very simple coil. This is for a bottom coil, but basically you have a wick, a straight wick with a piece of wire wrapped around it, and it goes to a positive and a negative terminal. When you hit the button on the battery, it sends power to this and it heats up the wick, which creates water vapor. This water vapor you inhale. What gives you that throat hit is the propylene glycol. So if you want less of a throat hit, you can always do DIY liquids, which is all it is four ingredients: polyethylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, nicotine. Nicotine is the most expensive part and most dangerous part. You want to keep it away from kids because, as you've probably read in the news, there have been kids, they find this stuff and, ooh, it tastes good. Well, that'll kill you. There's so much nicotine in one bottle of that stuff. But when in the entire market of vaporizers, you start off with the pen type that has this kind of tank, and it has an upper coil that has a wick that brings fluid up to it. So when the fluid gets real down here, you got to shake it up to get the wick really good and coated. Well, I went to my local vaping store, Stormy's Vapor Seller on Watson Boulevard. Great store, best customer service, cheapest prices, cheaper than internet prices, and I was like, holy shit, cheaper than internet, wow. Like my personal tank, the Aero Tank Mega, $43.99 online. They had it there at $39.99. Got it. But with vaporizers, you start off with the regular pen with the little button on it. When you press the button, I mean, I'll just demonstrate with the MVP. All it is a bigger battery. It's the same thing. But when you hit it, the button would glow. And the smaller ones would give you 5 to 7 seconds before it would shut off. The bigger ones like this one gives you 10 seconds. This one has a 2600 milliamp hour battery, so good battery. The little ones, basically, from the little one you go from the regular little one with the little button on it to one with what's called variable voltage. On a variable voltage, there is, the bottom of it twists, and there's numbers on it. It goes usually from about 3 volts to sometimes 5, 6 volts. In my case, 6. And some even do amps between, I believe, 4 and 15 at the max for electronic cigarettes. There's also mechanical cigarettes, and that is mechanical electric cigarettes, and that doesn't have a microprocessor. That is, with that you have a dripper instead of a tank, and you make your own coils. It has the tank for it, and you drip your stuff on. You do 5 or 6 drips onto your coil, and then you take a hit. I actually tripped somehow on my damn hand. I thought that was empty. And you get a lot stronger hit. I actually hit someone's today, and you get so much more vapor, a very warm vapor. But today I went out and I got my most recent. Let's take the tank off so you can see exactly what I got. We have the Vaping e-Lvt. Now, when you start getting into mods, I had, before I got into big ones, I had one of the little pins. It's square. It's called the e-Lvt. It gave me this little screen on the side where I could change the voltage. Now, on this one, U stands for voltage for some reason, and P stands for, let me make sure. Yeah, U stands for voltage, P stands for wattage. So you can actually change the wattage and the voltage digitally. And it actually has a little puff counter of how many hits you've taken off of it. It tells you when you put on a certain coil, like let's just take this one. If you put on a certain tank and you want to know what ohm it is, you actually hit both buttons and it'll tell you 1.6 ohms. And it'll also let you know how much. This one goes from 3.6 to 4.2, I believe. How it steps it from 4.2 to 5 volts. Probably has an onboard transformer that does that. But this one you actually, I didn't know this when I bought it. And big goof up on my part. I had to go back to the bank and get more money. There's an internal battery. Give me a second, maybe I can get what's needed. Yes, I can. Inside this one is an internal battery that, just like the MVP. After the e-Lvt, I saw a lot of people with an MVP, so I was like, okay, I want to get that. But it has a built-in lithium-ion battery. You can't change it. If this goes bad, you throw it in the trash because you can't change the battery. This one, you can change the battery. So, for instance, let's say you're out somewhere and you're vaping quite a bit, or you're camping, whatever it may be, and you don't have a place that you can charge it. Well, you can buy batteries that range from about $6. This one is the top of the line 2100 milliamp lithium polymer battery. But it goes inside of it. It's actually a very light battery. I thought it was going to add a lot of weight, but it doesn't. But there's a lot of different ones out there. There are mechanicals, which is, instead of having the digital interface controlling your voltage, you just have a direct current going to it. All it is you have a button on the bottom that connects a battery or 2 batteries to a coil set at the top. But this one was, I got it for $89.99 plus tax, so $95. Then I had to buy the battery, and that was, I believe, about $14. I can't remember. The tank was $39.99. And with this one, it has the same things, but this thing's built like a damn tank. The entire shell is steel. You have a rubber housing around it. It has a built-in flashlight. The same things, does all the same things as the other one. Has a little more complicated, like to go from volts to watts, you have to hold the power and the negative, or the power to go to volts, power, and negative for 2 seconds. For watts, power and positive for 2 seconds, and then you can go from there. You can also lock it by holding it for 5 seconds. And it actually locks the screen. I mean, these are some really hard buttons to push. So I would very rarely doubt that I would push these buttons by accident, because I have to use my fingernail to push them. So that right there should tell you. As far as it comes to output, you have to remember I am using a Kanger Air Tank bottom dual coil. Here's another one. This is a cheaper version. This I actually this one actually has an airflow controller. It's right here, and it actually will restrict the amount of airflow coming in. And just like I've already showed, these are the Kanger. Kanger has come out with 1.5 ohm dual coils, which is a really cool thing. And soon they are coming out with sub-ohm coils, which is going to be a really cool thing. But it goes down in that, and then you have that whole part right there. That's your air control. And then that goes on to that. And people have asked me, why do I have such a long neck? Well, sometimes when you're vaping, the fluid will pop and stuff you really don't want in your mouth, especially a good amount of. So I got a long drip tip, so the fluid would have not only a further way to go, but also a small bend. And finally, let's get to the how well it hits. That was longer than average. I'll try to see if I can max out the battery. Oh, spearmint. Amazing vapor. Nothing like mechanical. Mechanical and a dripper gives you so much more, but this is the best I have found thus far, especially with the 6 volts that this thing puts out. And the Kanger dual coil. I mean, this is really the shit. And it has the standard 510 ego fitting, or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know exactly. And also with this, you have 2 different types of hits. You have mouth hits and lung hits. Mouth hits, it's just like you would with a cigarette. Lung hits are more long, prolonged. You get a lot more vapor. You're inhaling with your lungs. You're using your diaphragm to suck it in instead of the suction from your mouth. And I usually start off with I start doing a lung hit, and then I stop with a small mouth hit to get a last little punch. But overall, that's pretty much all I have to say on this topic. I will say I am about 4.5 or 5 months away from smoking now. I will admit I will hit a cigarette every now and then. Bastards are so damn tempting. But it's been a good experience. So, again, to everybody out there, peace.